there, everybody. Welcome back. My name is SMITHEL. I am here, as always, with Kozer for the weekly Poro Report. Kozer, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, so if you guys are not familiar with the podcast, this is the weekly Poro Report. This is currently episode 2. Every week, Kozer and I come to you. We talk a little bit about what's going on in Legends of Runeterra, the meta, any kind of tournaments, a professional scene, information that's going on, any news about the game. So first of all, we do want to thank everybody that is coming back. Our first week where we released episodes 0 and 1 were much better received than we anticipated, especially being a new podcast.
Absolutely.
Like Koz, I was expecting like maybe 10 like views and downloads combined.
Yeah.
I don't know about yourself.
Oh, basically around that, and we I think combined for almost 230 views with YouTube and podcast.
Yeah, I mean it was definitely a bigger start than we anticipated. So again, thank you to everybody that's listened
So
to this.
much.
Yeah, if you haven't and this is your first episode, strongly encourage to go back check out episodes 0 and 1, especially 0, because that's kind of where we introduce who we are, what our background was, why we like the game, all that kind of good stuff. Episode 1 we talked about Elusive Burn as a deck, so it gives you a little bit of a background of what we do, who we are. It's a good starting point. But, this week, it seems like the meta kind of keeps evolving. I know we see Mistwraiths everywhere this week, or at least Kozer, you do.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I really haven't had a chance. For everybody that is tuning in for the first time, I apologize. I normally do not sound this terrible.
And your mic usually doesn't, or your camera usually doesn't stutter the way it is.
Yes, the reason for that is I'm currently traveling for work. So on the audio version, hopefully it's not as bad, but if you are watching the video version, I am a little choppy due to being on hotel Wi-Fi for the moment.
Surprisingly, your mic sounds great, but your camera kind of looks like you're 3 seconds behind. It's like an anime.
Yes, so by all means, just ignore me video-wise. Again, audio people, hopefully you guys won't have a problem with it. But yeah, I've been traveling all week for work, so I haven't been able to play too much Kozer. Normally I'd like to give my input about, what the week's been, but I'm actually still sitting on my 3 chests. I left before Tuesday's opening, so I'm kind of anxious to get back and see what I got.
Hey,
Did
I
you get
offered to open them for you, but you never gave me your information, so I think you're afraid that I'm going to steal your account.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's not so much I'm afraid you're going to steal my account, but, I just don't want you to steal my luck. I've actually been having really good luck with my chests and everything like that.
I see what you did there. Saying I'm
Hey,
unlucky. I didn't get one
you
champion this week in Vault. Not one champion.
You saw last week whenever I think my bronze chest upgraded to a champion chest or something, and I got 2 champions out of it. It was amazing. My bronze, no, not the chest. What are those other things called? On the region path.
Yeah.
It was like a silver one of those or something like that upgraded or like a rare one of those that upgraded. It was amazing. I was never so happy because I never get that kind of luck in any game that I play.
Yeah, no, this week I only got lucky when I did, I hate expeditions so much. They frustrate me a lot. So I played through one expedition this week,
Okay.
and or was it last week? Yeah, I was missing one Hecarim last week, and I had 2 expedition tokens. So I literally just I played the first game, lost in like game 1 or 2, played the second game, lost in one or 2. I was like, honestly, fuck this shit. I'm just gonna surrender and see if I still get a champion. So I surrendered both of my tokens. I got Hecarim. And then I think I got Ash as the other one or something. So I needed a third Hecarim. So that was nice because I was going to have to purchase another Hecarim for Mistwraiths because it's super important to have. But I... crap, what was I going to say? Oh, because I got the Hecarim, I didn't have to purchase it with the gold card. So what I did with the gold cards was make Ezreal freeze. So, which we're going to talk about mildly in this podcast, a little more below.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad deck to go, especially because it changes things up a little bit now, which is nice. Excuse me. But I mean, yeah, before I did go, so I didn't get to play anything on Monday because I was traveling that day. But for the week prior, I did get 2 expedition runs in, and
Hmm.
I got to 6 wins on one. I think 5 on the other. Oh, excuse me, my God.
I
I mean,
hope
I
you're not
can't.
getting the coronavirus.
I'm trying my best to avoid it. But yeah, I can't get that elusive 7th win. I mean, I hate it because you only get one chance at it, as opposed to
Hmm.
as long as you don't lose back to back. And I could be having a pretty solid run, and then I'll get there and just lose.
Hey, I've
But
never gotten past 5, so you're already doing better than me. I got 5 this week, and then I forget which champion I got. I think it was literally one that I'll never ever use. I don't even remember
yeah,
what it was.
on
It
the
was like
upside,
chemo.
one of my runs, I actually got a champion wild card, which I felt great about because I was like,
Hmm.
okay, now it gives me 3 for the week essentially, or 4 because I bought my 3 from the shop for the max, and then I got an extra, so I was able to sit there and kind of craft what I needed or fill some gaps in some of the decks I wanted to build. Like I actually think I did craft 3 Hekrams because I didn't have any, and I wanted to kind of start moving a little bit into like the Mistwraith deck, which again we're gonna cover. Um, but I mean, yeah. So this episode, there's a couple things that we're gonna try to touch on here relatively quickly. Is obviously we're gonna be going a little bit over some stuff that Mobalytics put out. They've released a tier list for decks that are currently in the meta, and we'll talk a little bit about who Mobalytics is, what they do, and all that good stuff. There was a tournament that happened last weekend. Kozer is kind of our expert go-to on the pro scene. He's been keeping up a lot with that, so he's going to cover a little bit about what happened in the tournament, what it was, who participated, all that good stuff. And then, as promised, every week we try to cover a deck and break it down and discuss, what's in the deck, how it plays, what the pros are, what the cons are. Um, and what we're going to cover this week, just because it seems that it's everywhere in the current meta, is Mistwraiths. You may also call it like fearsome mid range or something like that, but it's essentially the same thing. There's a couple different variations of Mistwraiths. I know Kozer, you have your own preferred version of like
Yeah,
the
I've been
cards that you
rocking
like to see in it.
between 2 different ones, and at one point I played a Demacia version too. There is quite a bit.
Yeah. So I mean, it seems like there's a deck that has a nice few variations on it, but the core of it's pretty much the same no matter what. And you know, people are sitting there saying that there's certain cards that are broken in it. But even now, we're starting to see people also move into other different decks that they're playing. So it's ever evolving. But again, hopefully, it gives you guys a little bit of insights if you want to try the deck out yourself. But let's get kind of right started here with the news. As we mentioned before, Mobalytics, great organization. Um, if you aren't familiar with
Yeah.
them, they are a group or a company that essentially they gather all kinds of data. They started out, I believe, with League of Legends. I don't think they did any games before that, but they gather all kinds of data. And if you're a stats nerd for games like myself, they sit there and tell you like in League who the like meta champions are that you can play, what build paths they are, and then they actually gather your personal data in League, and they'll sit there and give you kind of rankings of like, oh, how's your farm compared to other people or compared to pros. They tell you what you need to work on. They chart your performance over time, so you can really track how much you're progressing. And they do some of the tracking like that for TFT as well. But they just released a deck tracker application whenever Legends of Runeterra came out. And what it does is if you download it on your desk, it has a couple cool notes to it, but it does track your performance, and it will sit there and say, hey, when you're running Shadow Isles and Ionia, for example, you're at a 60% win rate, but if you're running this region and that region, you may be at a 20%. So it really keeps track of how you're performing as you continue to climb. But what they released, which was kind of nice, is they released a link that will be in the YouTube description for anybody that's on the audio only, of tier lists for various decks that are currently hot in the meta. And the way they did it is for everybody that's running this desktop application and, it's picking up the games that you're playing, they took over 200,000 matches worth of data and they've compiled it and said, here's the decks that are performing well. And then they kind of took that list and they worked with Swim you know, and said, "Hey, Swim, is this what you're seeing as well?" And he gave his expert opinion and kind of weighed in on certain things. But what's kind of great about it is Mobalytics, again, they go above and beyond with everything that they do. So
Yeah.
what they do is in this list is they not only break down saying this is an S tier deck, this is an A tier deck, this is a B tier, whatever the case may be. They actually will sit there on each deck and they'll tell you a short, 3 to maybe 4 sentence description of how the deck's played. They'll tell you the mana curve of the deck. They'll tell you, the champion, follower, spell distribution, obviously what cards are in it, the cost to create the deck. They'll give you the code so you can import it to your game. The pros, the cons, the weaknesses, strengths, all that good stuff. So Kozer, like you have it up on screen right now for everybody watching the video version. What are your thoughts of, this tool as far as how it's built, how it looks, ease of use, all that good stuff?
Oh, it's super helpful. Like I've used this quite a bit. Like that's how I basically figured out about Mistwraiths, Fiora. Like I already had my own elusive burn and stuff like that that I was using at the time. But yeah, this is very helpful for especially a lot of new players as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there are some, pros and cons to this. Like I believe, the tool as it currently exists, it has no way of differentiating when it's pulling the data, whether it's a ranked game or an unranked game. So they very
Yeah.
much fully recognize that, like, hey, there may be really, really strong decks out there that people are playing, but there's just not enough data on it as well that, they could put it on this, ranked deck list. So, for example, somebody may have built one deck just randomly, played it in unranked, and, kicked ass with it essentially. And they just don't have that data to say, okay, is this something that everybody's playing? What's going on? So, but as the data starts to compile and they get more and more games in and all that good stuff, you can start to see a trend evolve and say, look, you know, uh, Dawn Spiders, for example, is getting an 80% win rate or whatever the number is, and because it's being played by X number of people at 80%, we can say it's an S tier deck. And then work with people like
Yeah.
Swim to make sure that, like, hey, is that accurate?
Yeah, no,
You know,
exactly.
so that's kind of good. So I mean, and again, if you're watching the video, you kind of see what's up there. Some of the decks right now that are S tier is Fearsome Midrange, which we're going to be talking about a little bit, or what other people may be calling it is the Mistwraiths deck. Dawn Spiders is another one. I know most people are familiar with that. It's an Elise deck. Elusive Burn, which again, if you're new to the show, we covered Elusive Burn last week. Go ahead, listen to that. We go in pretty deep detail as to why to play it, what cards are covered, all that good stuff. So it's a kind of unique deck. I have a lot of fun playing it, and I'm glad to see that it is considered an S tier deck as well. Uh, so definitely check that one out. The A tier one, I'm only going to focus on one deck here, just to call it out, and I'm really hoping to cover this in a future episode, is the mid-range Frostbite deck. So it's 3 Ash, 1 Katarina, 1 Tryndamere, and it really focuses on the Frostbite synergy with Challenger type cards. So it's very much saying, hey, look, put out what you want. We're going to bring it down to 0 attack, and we're going to force you to fight who we want you to fight. It. I don't know. I don't know about you, Kozer, but I very much love, that region. The Freyord region.
Yeah, I
Ash.
really like
I
that
like that.
region too. It this is
I think.
this is a really crappy deck to play against when you're playing Mistwraiths because there's just so much. Basically, kind of like it's a split. It's mid range, so because it's mid range, it has a little bit of control, a little bit of aggro,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
it can really slow down the game, especially with harsh winds, flash freeze, brittle steel. Like those are huge
Yeah.
at like literally blocking some of the like main damage coming in.
Well, and plus, like, I feel like Katarina being thrown in there. I love Katarina as a card. I wish that I could find a deck that would be reliable to play with her and focused around her because At first, I wasn't big on Rally, and I hear you saying Kozer, and I know you don't like the
It's
Rally
no, no,
mechanic.
no. I don't mind Rally. I like the Relentless Pursuit card. It's just Katrina, Katarina. The problem with her, not Katrina. Katarina. The problem with her is when you throw her out, um, you waste 4 mana, then you attack, then she basically there's no way to really kill her unless you have a card to remove her off the board, which is nice when you're using Ezreal Freeze because you can just kill her with one of your abilities. Um, the only problem with her is every time you put her out, you have to spend 4 mana, and I just feel like there's
That's true.
so much other stuff you can do instead of spending 4 mana that I kind of struggle to find her relevance. She's really good in a Yasuo deck, but
Yeah, I mean, I
Yasuo's
like
just not
her.
good right now. That's the biggest problem. I know I always bring him up every week because I can't play my
Yeah,
boy right now. I can't play my weeb.
yeah. See, for me, it's like I think why I love her so much is because, like you said, I mean, she does cost 4 mana. So at most, you're playing her 2 times on a turn.
Oh,
But
when she
she is.
levels up, I forgot. She's three
Oh yeah,
mana to start. Yes.
yeah. But so I mean, it's one of those things that I love her because she is, in my opinion, the most fun card to play when you're not the attacker, and especially if they don't anticipate you having a Katarina in your hand. Like I love her in Expedition, um, only because since the expeditions are much more slower, drawn out type of game, like you're
Oh,
expecting
heck yeah.
to get to turn 10 and go. Um, it's great where you're sitting there saying like, okay, you attacked, you have no mana. I'm sitting with a leveled up cat in my hand. I'm gonna play her, attack again, and make you either block or go through. And then guess what? She comes back to my hand. I'm gonna play her again, and you're attacking like 2 or 3 times in a round sometimes, which is great because it really disrupts the flow of the pacing that they have of saying, okay, I'm safe. I can keep him till next turn. He's gonna level up, especially like things if they have like Braum in their deck or they have Braum on the field. You play Cat, they block with your Braum. You're like, great, okay, Cat comes back. You play Cat again. Well, do they want to sacrifice the Braum because he doesn't have a chance to heal up with his regen at that point? Um, so I am dying for somebody to get a real solid Katarina deck that is viable because I love the rally mechanic. The more I play with rally, the more I love it because it's basically saying every turn I'm in the attacker. I'll let you have your turn to go first, but every turn I'm attacking. And it's
One thing I
it's
am
awesome.
wondering about her, though, is if you play
Uh-huh.
someone on the board and you freeze her, does that still count as striking? Because technically you would not strike because when you
No.
have 0 damage, you can't strike. So that's another way to deal with her. I've always
Yeah.
wondered how to deal with Katarina other than using Get Excited, this
Yeah.
board, or this card.
You
Because this
you
card's really
almost
easy.
yeah. You have to either as she's attacking play some sort of burst to take her out, uh, or I guess you could do it fast too, but then you risk what's it called?
Deny.
Yeah, like you risk a deny or something like
But
that.
they don't have that in mid range. That's the only thing is mid
No.
range frostbite. That's why I feel like Katarina's really good in Ionia. Just
Hmm.
like when you're running in a Ionia Noxus is just really good together. Like they have really good synergies because of like all the
Yeah.
stuns and stuff. Like that's usually how you run Yasuo if you can. There's been a couple of attempts to try to make his deck good, but it's mostly people that have already been in Masters that are now trying to play around with it.
Hmm.
Oh, or we're just in Diamond trying to get up to Masters. Now it's like I don't know. It's just not a
Yeah.
really doable deck. You can't climb with it. It's not possible. Maybe once there's some slight changes, the next biggest patch is I think in a week. Isn't it something
Yeah,
like
probably.
that? I think it's in
So,
like a week that they were talking about doing a. I don't know if they're gonna patch the game much until they fully release the game.
yeah,
And
they said they're going to do a little bit of balance and some tweaks in that, but I'm not anticipating anything in like major until version 1.0.
yeah,
And that's me personally. Maybe I'm going to be completely wrong, and the next patch is going to come out, and they're going to say, "Look, we're adding a completely new area, and we've gotten rid of a lot of card draw and shadow isles and all this good stuff." But to me,
well,
I'm anticipating it being a 1.0 type major hit.
Yeah, I'm actually working on a funny version of Mistwraiths right now with Piltover. I was talking to
Okay.
Casanova about it, but I'll talk about it a little bit another time. I got to try it
Yeah.
out. I didn't test it because I'm currently Gold 2. I was in Gold 1, and I lost a couple of games before the podcast, and now I'm back to Gold 2. I'm really trying to approach to get into Plat. I definitely want to 100% get into Diamond by the end of, like, before the game's released,
Yeah.
but we'll see if that happens. I would love to get to Master. I don't know if my
Don't
wall
have.
can handle it, because I don't know if I told you, but I by accident put a hole in my wall this week, pushing
Yeah.
my desk. Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
mistake. I don't want to talk about it. This game is a love-hate relationship. I love it, and
See,
sometimes it gets me so mad.
See, I'm very much the type that I'm saying, hey, look, if I never hit Masters, that's fine. My goal is just to become the person that can get the 7 wins reliably in Expedition. Like,
Oh
if
god.
like, I have never been like in Hearthstone and Magic, anything like that. I have never been an arena like addict. I've always hated those game modes. I've played them if I had like a free ticket or something like that to use. I am hooked on expeditions. I love them so
Yeah.
much in this game. I love the concept of it. I love what you do. I love that 7 wins feels within reach. It's not like 12 or something like that, like Hearthstone. I like
Wait,
that as long
it's
as you're not losing
12 in
2 in a row.
Hearthstone?
I'm pretty sure it's 12
And
in
you
Hearthstone.
can lose 2 also in Hearthstone, or no?
So Hearthstone, I'm pretty sure it's a 3 strikes you're out type of match, if I recall
Oh,
correctly.
okay.
It's been a while since I've been in Hearthstone, but
Yeah, because
so
the
like you
game's
can
just so
go.
bad.
Yeah, you could go like 0-3. Like you could go lose 3 in a row and things like that. But what I hate about Hearthstone is it's like you're stuck with your cards. Like you draft, you play that out, and you're done.
Oh,
Like
wow. You can't
if
even
you
trade or make trades like that. That's weird.
again, unless they change it since last I played, but it's and what sucks about it too is you're spending I think what's the equivalent of like $1.50 or something like that per run in Hearthstone. And you get one chance. If you get bad RNG on the cards you could draft, tough luck. You're out. You're going to go maybe 0-3 if you're not a great player that understands the value of every card and all that good stuff. Here, because of the 2 trial system, it feels so much better. Like if I sit there and I go, ah, crap, I don't like the deck I crafted. I'm going to see how far I can go. And you get to, let's say, like 2 wins and then you're out. You lose 2 in a row. I'm like, okay, I got trial 2. I've learned from my mistakes. Let me try to craft something a little bit better. Like you're in that mind frame already, and you don't
Yeah,
have
it's
to
still
spend
luck though.
more money.
Like I've
Well,
had
yeah,
I've had weeks where I got like Ezreal as like one of my things. You know what? I just went with it. It went
yeah,
bad because you can't
but
build like an actual good Ezreal freeze deck in it. Like it's really hard to do.
well, it's hard, but I feel like it's easier than other games. Like again, let's go back to Hearthstone. So Hearthstone, you're drafting one card at a time. It feels like in Runeterra that because you're drafting sets, so you're drafting
Yeah, 3.
three cards at a time, they very much have synergy typically between those sets. So like if you're playing I don't know, let's say if you get Braum as an option, typically cards that are going to drop with Braum are things that are going to like, hey, buff a unit in your hand, buff a unit in your deck, something that's going to make him a little beefier to survive damage. Um, you know, but in Hearthstone, it's like, okay, well, I got this great legendary card, but you may not get anything that goes along with it. So it's a little easier to build some synergies in it than I would say other games. So I mean, if you got an Ezreal, you could sit there and say, okay, I'm just gonna start like picking spell heavy things, like things that target. And chances are, if you see one spell, there's gonna be 2 cards with it that are gonna at least kind of play off of each other. Not always, but to me, it feels that way. I would love to see like what the folks at Riot say about that. If they say that they always try to pair cards similarly, or if it's just luck of the draw with maybe a slight tweak to it.
Yeah.
So, so to me, I think that's kind of why I'm loving it more, is because I get 2 chances to make something I like and love, and I'm drafting multiple cards at a time, so it's easier to build synergies. It's easier to say, okay, this pack buffs units in hand. This pack, is going to recall, like these next three are all recall heavy cards, so I can basically buff something in hand, recall it, buff something in hand, recall it, buff something in hand, recall it. And you can start seeing the type of deck you want to play. Like, for example, like if you draft Teemo, you're going to start picking anything that makes shrooms. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
no,
it's
for
a
sure.
lot easier to do that.
Okay,
You
I'm
know, so
sorry
I
to
mean, it's
interrupt you. I gotta go to the bathroom really, really bad. I'll
no
be
problem,
right
buddy.
back, and then we'll start up again. Okay? And we're back.
Good, yeah. Yeah, sorry about that break, guys. But yeah, so I mean, I know we kind of went on a little bit of a tangent about expeditions. It's just something that I very much am starting to fall deeper and deeper in love with. But I'm hoping that in the future here, because neither of us are expedition experts, to either bring on somebody or start using some resources out there similar to how we do the deck breakdowns, and really talk about expedition and give tips on how do you know what the value of a card is? Should you pick it? Which ones work great in expeditions that don't typically work well in constructed, for example. So we definitely gonna be bringing more content on that in the future. So just hold tight. But I'll kind of end my expedition rant there. So Koza, tell us a little bit about the tournament that you were watching.
So the tournament started on Sunday. It was
It,
single limb.
okay, who hosted it?
Whoever hosted it was Monokuma Esports. That's the
Okay.
Twitter handle. They don't have like a verified Discord, so I don't really have like the link or whatever. But if you find Monokuma Esports on Twitter, that's MONOKUMA Esports. I should need to spell that out for you. You should have that.
Yeah, and, and,
Um,
and we'll link all that in the show notes, right?
yeah, I'll put that in like
Yeah.
basically all of our notes are gonna get any deck link or anything like that is gonna start being put in the YouTube description, but I'm gonna be pulling it out of the Podbean description and the all of the podcasts because it just when it gets uploaded to Spotify, it just looks really, really bad, and
Yeah, it
so
just looks
does
like a
it.
giant paragraph of links.
Exactly, and it does the same thing on iTunes. So the only thing I'm gonna do on those is probably just post our like Twitter and like just our and then just like a Discord link probably, and that should be good. And then or
Yeah,
maybe just the YouTube channel because the YouTube is where you
yeah,
basically go to get all the links. So I'll just post something
that
like
works.
that, and then you guys will see that. So, anyways, back to the tournament. So the tournament was a best of three format. There was $100 prize pool.
Nice.
So I don't think first. Well, actually, I got the rundown here. So I don't think the first place got $100. It got split
Hmm.
up differently. Let me
Okay,
look at the
so
home.
probably like first two, first three, something like that. But now the one thing, and tell me if I'm wrong, Kozer, but I was trying to read through your notes here while I was traveling through work a little bit on the tournament. But is it correct that like so you weren't able to pick the same region twice? So you couldn't run like a Noxus Ionia and then a Shadow Isles Ionia. You could only put Ionia in one deck, correct?
Yes. So the way that it worked is it was called Conquest. So basically, say you won. Well, I'll use the finals as an example.
Okay.
Gummi versus Casa. So it was Gummi versus Casanova, both
Hmm.
ex Hots players. Casa, you may know because he was pretty big in the hot scene. Gummy was more of like an amateur player, but he knew a lot of the pros and was always a top GM player. But so, for instance, Casanova ran Mono Mistwraiths, which is just Shadow Isles as his first deck, and then for his
Hmm.
second deck he did Ionia, Demacia, Fiora, and
Yeah.
Gummy
Now,
did. Go ahead.
as I say, I saw that Shadow Mistwraith deck, and my understanding is the reason why he ran that, which is kind of good, and I think I saw somebody else post about this as well, was that by running just straight Shadow Isles, you're kind of maximizing your impact on the Mistwraith cards.
Yes, it will
So it's
100% be always a mystery that gets
yeah,
spawned out, whereas you have like a 50-50 chance basically, because there's I think it's want to say it's
Yeah.
five Ionia cards because it's 2 denies and 3 shadow assassins. That's at least the variant that I use. As I use
Yeah.
Gummi's variant, but I think there's also I've seen one that has 7.
Okay.
So with that, you have 5 chances of picking up an Ionia card and it completely screwing up your Mistwraith coming out from your Wraith Caller.
Yeah, it messes up
So
that tempo bad.
yeah, well, I don't know.
I mean, it's not
Still a
impossible, but it's
4/3
just
card.
yeah. I guess that's true.
It's
That's true.
Mistwraiths is not the only thing that wins you the game. It's not that important. So the reason why a lot of people are running mono is actually because of the healing that you can get from it. Because you run all Shadow Isle cards, so you use Drain, where you drain 3
Yep.
health from an enemy and heal yourself
Yep.
up. It's also good against Heimer decks, which are played a lot in Master, Ezreal, stuff like that, because you can literally just do 3 damage right off the rip and not really have to worry about it, as long as Ez hasn't leveled up, because and
Okay.
Heimer too, because Heimer's 2/4, so once they level up, it's a little harder to kill them. But yeah, it's basically the difference with mono is it's just even more aggressive because you can use cards like Atrocity, and I think you even can put Vengeance in it as well.
Yep.
It just depends on what you're running. It really depends
Yeah.
on what variant you're running and what you want. Now, some people
Yeah.
are against Vengeance, and then other people are pro Atrocity, and we'll go into that a little
Yeah.
bit more later.
Yeah. I was gonna say we're jumping a little bit of the gun here, so we'll definitely talk a little bit about it. So, but yeah, so he ran that. You're going into other decks that were big in the tournament.
Yeah, Ezreal Freeze. Well, that's what Gummi played for his second deck. So the actual match, I actually watched the finals through Casanova's stream. Unfortunately, I didn't see many of the other ones because Casanova, by the time I tuned into him, there had been a lot of disqualifications because people just like no-showed. So it kind of sucked because I didn't really get to watch that much of the tournament, and Gummi wasn't streaming because he doesn't stream on Sundays. So it
Okay.
was. So I saw the finals. Basically, Casanova ran Mono Mistwraiths versus I think it was Ezreal Freeze. Yeah,
Okay.
that was Gummi's first deck. Ezreal Freeze. Ezreal Freeze won. Then he used his Mistwraiths, and Casanova was able to beat him with his Mono Mistwraiths. Then they went to game 3, and then Casa needed to beat him with Fiora against Mistwraiths, and it was actually a really close game. Like I should have queued up like a replay of just like the final thing. Basically, he used a Purify to unfreeze a character, and he just needed to pull up basically a Shadow Assassin just for a block and to pop up another card and hope that it was a good one, and he probably could have won that game, or at least gave himself a bigger chance, but he just couldn't get it working. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's the way it went. So Casa lost. Gummi was first. Another honorable mention, Mr. Newt. I think he follows us on our weekly Poro Twitter account, and Shalan. I've watched him play a couple times against Casa and Gummi. He's a really good player. A lot of the players that are in like the top like 10 are all players that are master players. Actually, I think Mr. Newt is not a master player because I just looked him up, and I think he's in like platinum, maybe diamond by now. I don't know. I don't know if he hasn't posted for a couple of days, so who knows where he is now. Anyways, so basically, I guess I can show you a little bit more of a rundown of the actual. Oh wait, did I cover? I said it was a best of 3. Single. Yep. Did I mention that it was single elimination? So there was no losers bracket or anything like that.
You did.
So the first week they did it
which I feel like is, I feel like too, like especially early game, like for something like you said. So there's a lot of no shows, things like that. I feel like single elimination is the way to go, especially
100%.
while we're like in this open beta kind of stage, because if you're running something, double elimination is just gonna start getting a little bit too long. $100 prize pool. Nobody's gonna want to stick around for like 3 days for a double elimination tournament to like get $100 or part of $100. So yeah, I feel like a single elimination. That's definitely for that prize and for what you're doing was a smart move.
Well, yeah, like single elim I think needs to stay unless you're gonna do a 2-day tournament just to get like a little bit more. Like the biggest problem with it is there is no way to stream it, so it's not like they can hire casters. What are they gonna do? Get a caster to follow if Casa's in it, or Gummi, or Bagel? Because Bagel was in the first week, and I think he got like second or third. All new Bagel. Shalon.
Yeah.
Like most of the people, when you actually look at the standings, like on here, it only shows a couple of people with Twitch accounts. Well, Casa just doesn't have his linked, but there might be a couple other people with Twitch accounts. But unless the caster is going to go in, find every single Twitch account that's live, it makes it really hard. And that's one issue that I kind of had with Hearthstone is it looks like that's how a lot of their games were casted, and I don't really understand that. There needs to be a spectator mode or a way for the casters to be able to properly do their job.
Yeah, and we were talking about this a little bit, off stream here, is that I would be shocked if Riot doesn't put some sort of spectator option in this game coming up. I mean, they have it in League. It's a huge deal. I think you can spectate your friends in TFT as well. I'm trying to remember. I didn't play a ton of TFT.
Even replays, because think about it. We could run a whole tournament early in the day and
just,
spectate most of them. And then if we by accident miss a game that was really solid game, we could just watch. Like most games are anywhere between 8 to 15 minutes. That's probably on average. Like, yeah, some games can literally be conceded in like 2 seconds, but it's rare. Some people, you go and do a game and they literally just see your deck and they're like, fuck this shit, I ain't playing against this. But it's, I don't know. If they do add spectator and replays like they have in League, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. They probably are already having it, it's just not going to release till March. Just like mobile, you would have been able to have fun and not, pissed that your wife wasn't going to play Legends of Runeterra for you.
If mobile was live right now, it would have been the best thing. Because again, I'm traveling for work, so no kids, no wife, anything like that for the week. I could have just hung out in my hotel room. I would have just hung out in my hotel room and literally just played, Runeterra almost all day, all evening. The thing is, I just don't have a gaming laptop. I built my PC, so I didn't have many options with me. But I know it's coming, so I'm just holding out. Because what did they say before? And maybe this is just me dreaming it, but did they say they're aiming for global release around March?
I think there's been some speculations, but I honestly don't know. We'll find out before the next episode, because you hear a little bit of different information, and then I don't remember what's true and what's not. I know in March TFT is going to release on mobile, so I don't know if Legends of Runeterra, maybe that's what you're thinking of. Because
maybe
I don't think Legends of Runeterra, it said, it didn't even give you a quarter, I don't think. Like when they had their what's it called, timeline ready, I don't even think it gave you on the timeline when it was. It just said summer or something like that. Summer 2020 or something like that. So that summer is pretty long. It could be in July. It could be in.
Yeah, I guess I'm just getting overexcited because I can't wait for this to get to mobile.
Same. Because it will be nice to be able to literally just lay down, play the game, watch something on TV, and just not have to sit at my computer. Like I love sitting at my computer, but sometimes I just want to relax, be able to sit down, play a normal game. Play not ranked. I don't know if I'll play ranked as much on my phone because I feel like I'll need pure concentration for it. And play a normal game, watch some anime, watch something on Netflix on an iPad or something, and then just kind of chill out, or even just play AI matches. Get my 100 points, get my 50s for surrendering. And get those done. I can do those the luxury of being in my bed instead of having to sit at my computer for the next 5 minutes to literally just surrender constantly. So
But good.
Well, let's go into the decks that were ran. I'm just going to talk over them a little bit. The Ezreal, Freeze, and Fiora. I'm just going to basically show them. I'm not going to go into full detail like I will be with Mistwraiths, but basically this is the Ezreal deck that was used by Gummi God. This is actually his account. So basically, you run 3 Ez's. Your goal is to get as much burst magic on the board and to deal as much damage using skills so that Ezreal levels up. Once Ezreal levels up, let me get to it. There we go. Once he levels up, then every time he's an elusive, so every time he Nexus strikes, hits the Nexus, and no one else gets in the way of it, he creates a Mystic Shot. And basically, all you do with all those burst skills we talked about is fire them.
Well, what makes Ezreal good, and maybe, like, I'm trying to remember it again off the top of my head. I'm not in front of a computer to check, but it's not so much that, because he does that even before being leveled up, as every time he strikes a Nexus, he creates a fleeting shot. But when he levels up, if I'm recalling correctly, he also, anytime you cast a spell, he does 2 damage automatically to the Nexus.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to get into.
Okay,
that's literally what I was leading into. Is what's nice is he makes a Mystic Shot even when he's normal and when he's whatever. But what's nice is once he levels up, even when you do a Nexus Strike, you do the 2 damage that he does when he's leveled up. You throw a Mystic Shot, and then he hits another Mystic, then he hits another 2 damage. So basically he hits 6 damage for 1 hit and spending 2 mana. So there's a lot of stuff that, like, even using Thermogenic Beam with no mana still counts as targeting a unit. So using a lot of these, the only card that I don't use as much is Rummage in this. I find it really hard to throw stuff away, but you can throw stuff away like Avalanche, and just if you don't need another card. But there's a lot of ways to make yourself pick up cards in this deck and make them cheaper and do a crap ton of damage. Because, yeah, I've won games literally just by using this guy. Playing 3 of them, having 6 Mushroom Clouds, and getting really lucky and thinking I was going to lose the game, and then the guy draws it and pulls out like 4 mushrooms, and I won.
Yeah.
So it's a fun deck with high reward if you play it really strategically.
Okay.
So that's that deck. Then it's the Fiora deck. I've talked about this a couple of different times. Basically, just elusives, Kinko Lifeblade, using Inspiring Mentor on Kinko, using on Fiora. Laurent Bladekeeper helps with that too. Shadow Assassin to draw more cards. It has a lot of spells in it. Purify is, honestly, we're just finding more and more what Purify can do. Purify is really good against Ledros. If you pop this on him, he can't last breath anymore. And basically, when you kill him, he's dead. And most Wraith, Mistwraith decks use only 1 Ledros. So if he's gone, he's gone, and it can save you the game. And Relentless Pursuit is huge. Like, some decks, like this one only runs 1, but I've seen ones with like 2 or 3, because it's huge when you can just keep attacking with your elusives and do 2 or 3 attacks, and especially with Kinko, just being able to heal up, and Judgment, obviously. So that's that deck. Done. I guess let's get into Mistwraiths, unless there's something you wanted to add.
No, I think that sounds good. I think moving into kind of our deck of the week here is a good idea. So Mistwraiths, I built it. I played it a little bit before I left for my trip, because I know you played a lot of it. But essentially, Mistwraiths, for people that aren't familiar, it's a mid-range deck. It's also, I think we said before, you could look it up on the Mobalytics tier list version of it. It's called Fearsome Midrange. It's a hyper-aggressive deck, in that it has kind of good cards at every single level of game. You got plenty of early game fearsome cards. You got removal cards. You got plenty of ways to outdraw your opponent, so you're keeping your hand level a little bit higher, give you more options to play with. Hecarim, Rasa, Ledros, late game. But essentially, the way you kind of want to do it is early game, you're using Elise as your threat. Now, Elise, unlike, some decks like Dawn Spiders or things like that, more focused around Elise, I would say she's not your biggest concern in Mistwraiths, but you're trying to keep her on board as long as possible for two reasons. So first, if you can get her to level up so you can get the challenger bonus on all your spiders and, get fearsome across all of your spiders, that's great, because then you're kind of limiting what your opponent can do on the defensive turn. But if they have the Elise, they're going to also ultimately have to keep kind of wasting spells, wasting followers, things like that to try to deal with her, which is the way that I play the game or play the deck is kind of what I'm trying to draw out. You know what I mean? Because they're like, you're trying to get them to have to deal with your Elise early. That way they don't have as many options available later on in the game.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that. You can also use her to bait so that you can use Vile Feast on like Fioras or something like that. Like there is some really good mechanics with this deck that just make it really hard to deal with. The huge one is Fearsome. Like using horrors, arachnid horrors are just massive. 3 damage, 2 health. And most of the time early game there's a lot of decks, like especially when you're playing against aggro decks that are all using Inspiring Mentor, like for the first 2 or 3 turns they don't even have 3 damage. Unless they have like a Zed or something. Like Yasuo doesn't come on board until 3 if you're using that kind of Ionia deck. Like it's huge.
It's allowing you to put out a little bit of early game damage that they have to find a way to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, they can't really be waiting till turn 4 or 5 to get, creatures on the board with, 3 health, or 3 power to start blocking it out. So it's kind of great. I know you kind of mentioned too, like when you get to like that, like 3rd or 4th, mana, what you kind of wanted to do is you're wanting to ramp into like your Frenzied Skitterer and then your Wraith Callers. So like, Frenzied Skitterer, it's, hey, look, +1, +0 to everything on your board. Or is it? Yeah, it's everything on your board then.
Any spider on your
-1.
board.
And then -1, -0 to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's again kind of playing with the Elise, but then around 3 and 4, that's when you're getting your like Wraith Callers on board. So Kozer, explain for people that aren't aware what Wraith Callers are.
So Wraith Callers, what they do is they actually summon your Mistwraiths. They bring them onto the board, and then every time you put a Mistwraith on the board, it adds +1 to every Mistwraith everywhere. So even if he's inside your deck, if you play a Mistwraith, it's gonna add +1. So it's really really good. When you get like I've had hands with 4 Wraith Callers, and I just put them all out and just got Mistwraith on every single one. You can have like a 5/2 Mistwraith, and it's fearsome too, so it's hard to deal with. And there's a lot of other stuff that play into this, because a lot of the times, like I've won a lot of games using Wraith Caller, Mistwraith, and then they try to block my board because it's full. Like that's the whole point of Shadow Isles. A lot of the time is overwhelming the board with just so many things that they at least need to try to block. So they'll try to block. They don't have many. You throw some Mark of the Isles on it, which is a burst. Yes, it kills your unit, but if you only need to do 8 damage, who cares? You won the game, and they can't really deny it. They have to make some huge play. Like you got to watch out when you're playing against freeze decks that can still use harsh winds, any sort of freeze, because it can literally stop you in your tracks, and then now your character's dead. So you just got to be careful. Watch the other team's mana before you make like a huge play like that. Try to drain their mana out before you do something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely being able to play around what possible answers your opponents have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great, but like you said, I mean, there are answers. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about like, well, I guess we can address it now. So basically, Frostbite, it's a problem again in that
huge
deck.
Ash decks suck to play Mistwraiths into.
Which is why we're seeing, and again, why I like this game so much is that the meta evolves so fast right now that Mistwraiths are starting to be a thing, but you're starting to run into Ash decks a lot more.
Yeah, 2 of them.
You didn't see him a week, or at least I didn't see him a week ago at all. I mean, it's something that people are saying, okay, how do we get around this? And Frostbite does it, and then I'm sure this time next week we're going to be talking about what's, countering Frostbite decks.
Well, that's the
But
problem is there's a lot of stuff that actually Ash is really good. The Ash decks are really good against Mistwraiths, but the problem with them is they're kind of weak to a lot of other decks. So I don't know. It's if a lot of people stop because a lot of people are going into Heimer, Ezreal decks like Elnuks. They're an honorable mention this week. We'll probably go into them a little bit more next week because I have a feeling on Monday their Mobalytics I think is going to be following up with Swim and basically finding out what the current meta is and looking over their stats. And I have a feeling we're going to see Elnuks a little bit more. There's a bunch of streamers that were running it. It's the same idea as Mistwraiths. It's just overloading your board with Elnuks.
Yeah. Even what's it called? Even I think the Legends of Runeterra Twitter said like, hey, what are you playing this week, and why isn't it Elnuks? So they drew attention to it.
Yeah, because they knew they know it's strong. They were just waiting for someone. That's the thing is you gotta remember a lot of these people that have made this game have thought out a lot of these decks, and it's like. It's really cool once they probably start to see people figure out some of their deck lists that they've thought of themselves. Like I forgot to mention the honorable mention. Like Astrogation actually took number 1 from Ruben Zoo this week. That I think is one of the people that work for Riot for Legends of Runeterra. So that was huge. He just got passed recently, but that's still big. Ruben Zoo was ranked number 1 NA master for a really long time. So. I think it was like 2 or 3 days or whatever. I make that sound like that's not a long time. That was a long time at the starting. Because in Europe, I'm pretty sure someone was just like master on like a rotating spin for basically the first 3 days, and now it's been sit for a little while. So
yeah,
Anyways, back in the deck, I guess.
Yeah, back in the deck. So we talked about a little bit about mid game. Going to get your Wraith colors out now. Turn 6 through like 7, 8, 9, 10. Like your late game, this is where you're getting a lot of, your heavy hitting cards out. Like your game enders are coming out.
Yeah.
You got your Hecarim coming, your Rosa's coming out. Your Ladros is coming out. And this deck, the one that we're highlighting, it does run deny. And so even if people sit there and try to answer some of your plays, you're kind of stopping, which is nice. Rasa and Ladros alone are scary as hell. You could take. I think somebody. Oh God, I wish I could remember who posted it so I can give them credit. But somebody posted something on Reddit today. It was like, "Hey, I'm learning how to play Legends of Runeterra. I think I learned, the meta. It's put Ladros in deck and then 34 other random Shadow Isles cards and win game. It's he alone just." Makes such an impact. I mean, I would be shocked if he doesn't get touched up. To sit there and give him, return to hand on death and keep cutting half.
What do you think they remove on him? Like, what do you think is fair? Like, do you?
So like you said earlier, a lot of decks only run one of him. I would just take out Last Breath. You know what I mean? I would sit there and say, he still gets his skill to cut the Nexus. What's it called? Health in half. But if you want to play that multiple times, you're sacrificing 3 spots in your deck. You're not just putting one of him in.
Or you rewrite the card. I think this would be a good idea because I still like his mechanic, Last Breath. He's a strong card, but you have to spend 8 mana to use him. It's like using Vengeance. It's
he's your turn. That's
exactly.
It, pretty much.
So
especially late game. But...
Yeah, absolutely. And
now remind me because I'm not there right now to confirm this. But his thing doesn't come on board if a unit dies, right? It just automatically happens, right?
Yeah, it automatically happens when you play. That's why I was talking about the wording. If they could change the wording, the way that I think they patch him without completely destroying the card would be that he cuts the enemy Nexus and health in half once. His Last Breath still returns me to hand, but after he's played again, I don't think he should be able to cut the enemy's Nexus in half again.
I think that would be okay. I think that would just be kind of hard to code. Even if they just put on, like, if they change wording, if they just sat there and said, after an ally dies, similar to like Rasa, because he's 8 cost. So essentially it's saying, look, you can't play him every turn because you're eventually going to have no allies on your board to kill. So you're going to have to take a turn to put something on board, make your opponent kill it, or in Shadow Isles you kill it yourself. But
Yeah.
then you play him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
that
when
would
it's
be a
just,
good mechanic too. It's both of them are still like there's a lot of work to make that happen as well.
yeah.
Either
I
way,
mean,
regardless of what you do.
because Ross is a pain like that. But at least I know if it's turn like 7, 8, 9, 10, and I haven't seen that card yet, and they're throwing just cheap units at me, I'm not killing them. I'm like, hey, look, I'll take 1 damage. You play it. I only have 2, champions on board. I can't risk you just clearing my board with it. You know.
Yeah, no, for
So
sure.
yeah, so I think there's some ways around it. I mean, and in the deck too, it's a good deck, but like you said earlier, it is weak to elusives. If you're playing tons of elusive things like that, it's gonna have a little bit of problems. Frostbite, we talked about that. If I get back, I may cover Frostbite a little bit next week in more detail. I may try to see if Koza agrees to let me make it the deck of the week, only because in the closed beta, I liked Teemo decks and I liked what's it called? They kind of liked like the Ash decks. I like that kind of stuff. Uh, so if it's kind of making a climb right now, I may go make it whenever I get back from traveling and see how it feels now, because I think it has a lot of potential. I think Frostbite has some good usage, especially against things like, we still see a lot of Zeds. So if you get a chance to sit there and say, go ahead, play it, you got the quick attack, I'll stop it. Right now, one of the decks I'm playing is a Lucian Senna deck. So you got quick
That's
attack on
also been
both
on
of
the
them.
rise a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I'm having the most fun with that deck right now. And we could talk about that later too, like another episode.
Yeah,
But I
for
mean,
sure.
yeah, I definitely I want to mess around with a little bit more of this Frostbite, especially because if everybody's running Mistwraiths still, then having something to counter it that I know how to play well would be great.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about these episodes is I think our podcast does focus a lot on helping players like understand how decks work and the mechanics of them. Like the most
Yeah.
popular
Whoop.
Mistwraiths decks are you fell over are the Ionia, Shadow Isles,
Yeah.
Demacia, Shadow Isles, and then Mono Shadow Isles. Those are all a little bit different. They all have different mechanics in them, but they're all really cool and get you some wins. And
Yeah.
I've actually climbed from silver to gold, or basically all the way through gold, basically using Mistwraiths.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it kind of, you said, our point of this show, and the way I view the show is like, hey, I'm not a pro player. Chances are I'm never going to be a pro player in
Nope.
my life in this game,
I'm not going to.
but my goal is to look at the people out there like us that are just like what I call the weekend warriors. Like, hey, I love this game. I'm playing it as much as I can, but I'm not spending every hour of every day analyzing every card and every word on every card to see what it's going well with. It's like, hey, tell me what works, tell me what people are playing, tell me how to counter it and what I should be focusing on, and I'm happy. And that's kind of the way that I'm looking at it, is for the listeners to sit there and say, hey, we'll do that research for you. Come check us out, see what we got to say. If you disagree with us, let us know. Like,
Yeah.
we're not perfect at this.
No,
if you
we don't know
say,
everything.
hey, yeah, if you say, hey, Mistwraiths are garbage and here's why, I am 100% willing to listen to that, because if you're right and Mistwraiths are garbage and I listen to you,
I
I'm
might
getting
not
better and
agree
I'm
though.
climbing. Yeah,
I might not agree with you, but I'll at least listen. Well, so
Yeah.
to finish off this deck, basically, so another big thing in the Ionia version is having to deny. Deny is really good,
Yeah.
but this is another problem why people are going mono wraiths quite a bit, because of playing against decks like Ash, because deny is not really useful against Frostbite. It doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. So popping deny out and making sure that you always get with mono, you only use Shadow Isles, so you're always going to get your Wraith Caller to summon a Mistwraith, because it uses Allegiance. So Allegiance, just to explain it, is when you summon this, it gets a bonus if the top card of your deck matches its region. So that's like a big thing to remember. There's a lot of other cards that have Allegiance in them. I think I've seen it a lot more so in Demacia, but there are other cards with Allegiance on it, and that's basically what they do across the board.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's huge. It's huge. Having mono
Truth.
is nice. I've used mono a little bit. I've mostly used the Ionia Shadow Isles version. I'm using a little bit different version of this, which I can show quickly. It's just I basically drop Vengeance and I run Atrocity. So I like Atrocity because when you know there's only like 6 health on the Nexus and you have Commander out or something, and you know that the person's basically used their 2 denies or they're not Ionia, Atrocity can literally finish the game for you. So it kills your ally, deals damage equal to its power to anything. So it's huge. It's gotten me
Yeah.
so many wins. I've done it even using it on a Arachnid Horde before, like only with three power. Like literally winning the
Yep.
game with it. I like it more than Vengeance because Vengeance costs 7 mana and it
Yep.
kills a unit, but there's other cards that can do that as well. Rasha is very easy to use if you save like a Glimpse Beyond or Mark of the Isles, because even if they don't attack you, you can just mark yourself, and then you'll do 4 more to the core if they don't, or the Nexus if they don't defend you. Kill the card, kill a spider, and then you put out Rasha, and it's huge. So, anyways, so this deck has basically gone through. Do you want to add anything else?
No. I mean, I think we pretty much covered it. Like I said, I feel bad that I haven't had a chance to play this week and really dive into it myself. But I know next week I'm coming back with a vengeance, and I'll have plenty to say on it, I'm sure,
Yeah.
or at least plenty more to say on it.
I'm just hoping
But
on this stream that this looks blurry because I just remembered what Gummi wrote at the bottom of that, and I hope that doesn't show up. I'll show you after, but yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. I'm sure people, like I said, all these notes will be here anyway. Somebody will see it, but uh, but I mean, at least that's it for me. Anything else for you, Coz, before we start closing this out here?
Uh, not well. Mono Kuma Esports has. That's why you should follow their Twitter. They are starting a tournament, another one, at the end of February. It's like February 29th to the first. They haven't announced exactly what it is because they might do double 2 days and do double a limb. They're not exactly sure yet. It just depends on what votes it gets. It's free to enter, as far as I understand. You just join the Discord, sign up on smash.gg, I think is the website, and you look for
Yep.
Duels of Runeterra, and they should pop up. They haven't posted it yet. Maybe by the next episode they will, and I'll leave a link to Monokuma Esports, their Twitter account, just so if you are interested, you can give them a follow and join the tournament, because I think there was only 66
Nice.
participants this week, and then there was 100 and something the week before, and it is in Europe as well. So do remember that.
Okay.
It's NA
Yep.
and Europe, so you can play either one. And they did also mention that's why a lot of players like Casa, Gummi, and I think Bagels, they're all making EU accounts because you're allowed to level up your EU account. You're allowed to play in both tournaments. So it's just for tournament practice. That's what these guys are doing. They're just trying to set up
Yep.
for when there's an actual pro scene in this game.
Yep.
And if you're interested in that too, or you just want tournament experience or just trying to win some money, go ahead. You'll play against some of
Or
the best.
Yeah, I would say, or just a chance to play against the best, and really, it's like the way I improve is playing with people better than me. You know what I mean? So if you get a chance to go up against somebody that's a master rank and see how they play and analyze your game style, go for it, man. It'll help.
For sure.
But yeah, but I mean, I think that's pretty much it for the day. Next week again, we'll dive into another deck. I'd like to talk a little bit more about expedition strategies to help folks out. So we'll probably hit a little bit more on that topic next week. I'd love to bring on guests like we mentioned earlier to talk about it.
Yes.
That maybe are some professionals on it or people that love that game mode, and we are in talks with some people to do that. Obviously, if you enjoy the show, whether you're watching us on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, whatever, whatever that
Podbean.
rating system is, Podbean, 5-star reviews help us kind of continue to climb the charts. That way more people can discover us, follow us, kind of share in the experience. If you like YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. That way whenever these videos post. Again, typically it's on Fridays, but we never know what's going to happen if there's something unexpected like traveling. It may go up a day earlier or something like that. Or if it's a busy week and, like, let's say if we release something and they release a massive patch the next day, you may get 2 episodes a week, so you don't want to
Yeah.
miss that out as well. Obviously, to follow our Twitter, it's at Poro Weekly. We will post the links to the YouTube, the Spotify, all that good stuff for you to catch the podcast there. As we mentioned before, anything that we reference today, whether it be Mobalytics, whether it be the tournament, these deck lists, things that we're covering, all that's going to be found in the YouTube comment descriptions. So go check that out if you want to support anybody that we've mentioned. Again, I strongly encourage Mobalytics. It is a fantastic site. It's free, I believe. They do have an option for premium membership for folks.
I didn't even know
they
had
do.
that.
I'm a premium member. I think all it does right now is for League of Legends stuff. I don't think there's any benefit to be a premium member for Legends of Runeterra at the time.
Oh, they'll add something though.
But yeah, like if you're playing League of Legends, they have a lot more individual profile stats and things like that you can keep track of, apart from what they normally provide to everybody. So it's a great tool again if you're a stats kind of person and really want to see how you're progressing in League. I would fully consider supporting them, and it's relatively cheap. I mean, I think I did it annually. It wasn't much at all. Comparatively speaking, I know what I say isn't much, maybe a lot for some people, but
like,
I think
what
it's
are we
a fair
talking
price.
here? Like $100, 200?
Something, but like I think I bought it at Christmas and it was like 50% off or something like that for a year. So I think I got it for like $50 or something like that.
Oh, that's
I
not
mean, I
actually
can't,
that bad.
I can't remember. It wasn't terrible at all. So yeah, I mean, I'd keep an eye out for them too. I do know that there are some podcasts and things like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but if you follow the league scene, I know there's some codes that you can enter for discounts and that. But yeah, definitely go support Mobalytics. It's great. It'll definitely help improve your game. What else do we say? Twitter, we mentioned at Poro Weekly. Again, you guys know, but it's weekly with an A, not W-E-E-K. It's W-E-A-K. Some people have sent us messages on Twitter, on YouTube, things like that. We have been pretty quick to respond. We definitely welcome your input. So if you're following us on Twitter or anything, by all means, feel free to message us there or message us on our personal accounts, and we will get back to you. If you have a question that you want covered on the show, let us know. We'll cover it on the show. Because I'm sure you're not the only one with that question. Let me see. YouTube again, Weekly Poro Report. You can find us there. Kozer, you individually, where are you at?
Kozer_88 on Twitter, Twitch, and YTKozer88 on YouTube. I actually think
Awesome.
I think I'm wrong about Twitter. I think it's just Kozer88. Honestly, can't remember now.
So you were giving me hell about not knowing my Twitch
I don't know. I
on
can't
episode
remember
0.
it this week. I don't know why. Like, I don't know. It'll take me 2 seconds to look.
That's fine. Well, while he looks that up, if you're
88.
looking to Kozer88 it is. If you're looking to follow me on Twitter, I am at SMITHEL Gaming. On Twitch, twitch.tv/SMITHEL. Pretty easy to find there. By all means, shoot me a follow or just come stop by, say hello. I'm always willing to talk to you guys. But Kozer, any final words before we sign off here for the day?
Well, I'm actually just remembering a video I saw clip the other day of Casanova with a crocodile game. I'm gonna actually post it up on the stream, and people can listen to it. It's better if you can actually watch it in video format, but it's pretty funny. He makes them play, and this guy surrenders.
Yeah, I was gonna mention it. I just didn't want to spoil it because it's a pretty good clip.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up on screen, and then right after that, we'll basically say goodbye. And well, wait, did you say where we could find you? I don't remember you saying that.
I did.
Okay, you did. I was looking.
Busy looking.
My bad. But
that sounds good. But yeah, so I know we did comment on it for the weekly Poro Report Twitter account. So if you go and see what we commented on Twitter, you could also find that clip as well.
Oh, but, God, I just realized what you Okay. Is he gonna load? Uh-oh. I'm just seeing a blank screen.
Ain't something.
No.
Yeah, nothing. No. We'll link to it. You guys can pull it up there. Like I said, I don't want to make the audio folks
that's
go,
the
what
one
the
that got removed. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, guys, again, like we said at the beginning of the episode, thank you very much to everybody that came and followed us week 1 for episode 0 and 1. It was a huge outpouring. we can't thank you guys enough. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode as well, and we will see you next week.